Yo, what is good, my anime people? What is good, yo? Guys, this is probably one of the videos I needed to do for a while, but with it being even more of a possibility of you watching it sooner than later, this ends up to be the perfect time to do this because let's just talk about it. Bleach and why you should watch. And I'm gonna open up this video with a disclaimer in the case of I have seen only the anime and I have a little bit of information about the actual manga, which I am not fully gonna jump into and try to spoil anything or even really uh, reference much in there, but there is some stuff I do want to reference just to get people a little bit more hype for what I've learned and for what I've seen is pretty hype in itself. So, Bleach being one of the top three sellers of Jump Shonen magazine was not that huge of a deal to me, and I didn't really understand it, or not understand, but I never saw what was the big deal about, these mangas being in such high pristine at the time when the anime was out and I was already behind on the story that people had already been watching and understanding. So to me, it was just like a bonus that there was more material out there, but for some reason I stayed away from it because I thought I just want to be an anime only. I want to watch everything I'm seeing or I want to know everything about this world and these characters through the anime. And if it never ever comes back, and they kind of state it, which here we are in 2020, and we're finally getting like confirmation that it's coming back. Um, I waited for quite some time, seeing how I was watching it when uh, the main arc where Ichigo ends up dealing with these people back home and all this stuff about trying to get his Soul Reaper powers back because of something happening. So if you haven't watched Bleach, I don't know what you've been doing, but you need to watch that. But the reason why you need to watch, and I also know that people are going to absolutely go crazy about how the fillers are and just how trash they are. Whatever people want to say about the filler, I get it. I get it. The filler was actual filler. Like it wasn't something that you can watch and then expect to have a higher meaning or any type of meaning for that matter after it was pretty much done, which unfortunately sucks. But I'll have a link down below for a list to be able to skip right through the filler. But I mean, if you are a true fan, you would watch the filler just because, you got time to do it. Anyway, with all that being said, Bleach has a main character named Ichigo, and as he finds himself in more and more increasing difficult situations, he has to either find a way to rise to the occasion, or he winds up just ultimately getting stomped and then maybe learning how to handle the situation. But nonetheless, it is a shonen, so the shonens come with a certain type of shonen flair. Villain shows up, too powerful for the hero, so the hero has to then learn a new way to beat the villain, or just gets a random power up that in this show doesn't really feel as random as most shonens would like to be. Um, the way he ends up growing to ridiculous levels to beating the villain who I'm about to switch to right now on the screen, Aizen, was well told, well thought out in the case of just making a villain so ridiculously overpowered that he shouldn't really have an equal, which he didn't until some crazy plot stuff happens and we get an Ichigo that's even weaker than this form we're looking at now. Actually, that's debatable. Because I don't know much about the actual manga. That's the only reason why it's debatable. Because I can't honestly tell you that this form can handle and withstand Miget's, uh, Ichigo's final attack that left him in the position for the final arc to happen where he had no Soul Reaper powers. So there's a lot that happens throughout the whole entire show. And with me telling you about the filler link in the description, you'll be able to skip past that stuff and get straight to what you actually want to see. So, or not just what you want to see, but you'll know when it's coming. You'll know when to, I guess, close your eyes and just start skipping. But here's the thing about Bleach and why I think it's amazing, other than it being a shonen and he gets power-ups that are actually pretty ridiculously hyped to watch in the grand scheme of just the show branching out and being better and better than what it already set out to be in the beginning, from showing Ichigo swinging a ginormous sword at these big hollows and trying to save Earth, or he thought that he's one of the main defenses of his realm of humans. But then when they introduce the captains, when they introduce another side of what on the other coin, like two sides of the coin, next thing you know, you're looking at a ridiculous difference in powers for every single character. They're all quirky and have these amazing personalities that you could actually really get behind and have favorite characters. Not only that, the show goes so in depth of how strong you are just by your spiritual pressure, which is the main source of power throughout of this series, that people like Aizen here can make and pretty much challenge the top of the top of captains by not even being in the fight himself, by just sending out these um, half Soul Reaper, half Hollow, more half Hollow, half Soul Reaper characters who also then have zany quirks and personalities that just makes you notice how much work the author is actually putting in to make everything not only just fun and entertaining to watch, but every character almost feels so well thought out that they could all be around for more time. And we see that mostly with a character like Aizen, who should be, if you're a villain, you should be killed off and you should disappear, type of deal. But they had more plans with this characters. They have more plans with even Grimjaw, one of my favorite. I'm gonna butcher their name, so I'm not gonna say it. But with Grimjaw, the guy that you saw at the beginning who tried to kick me around, there's just these things about them that make their character, just their character personality, excuse me, so much more than meets the eye at the beginning. Like from seeing a character just completely want nothing but blood and trying to absolutely destroy the hero, to understanding, their place in the world, kind of, to so to speak, and sticking to their own like their own type of way of living, right? This guy right here is Grimjaw. And to think that someone like him, who I just enjoyed seeing his character in general, and I was like, this guy's sick. But once you see everything that kind of pops off with him, to think that someone actually spoiled me and said that this man comes back somehow blew my mind. And I don't know exactly how he comes back. I don't know exactly what he does when he comes back. I just know this is the main reason why he's in a new outfit. This is the main reason why he is relevant still. And Bleach lore is because he's still around. So it's stuff like that that gives you these very, very cool moments of just nostalgia of how long it's been since you see a character, and then they just wind up showing up and making a grand stand against the new types of strong enemies, which, like a normal shonen should, it raises all the bars every single time new villains are showing up. I'm gonna let this hit me. um, and because they do stuff like that, it's just another way for them to grow the main cast and make them worth watching, or make them seem much better than we have seen them in previous encounters and stuff like that, or they just get absolutely destroyed. One of the main people that show you this, that they can grow and become somewhat of the, best support that the main character can have, is Uryu. Quincy, who pretty much starts in the very beginning of the show, still needing Ichigo to pretty much save him throughout everything, almost everything, and him slowly but surely challenging captains and challenging the people that Aizen made that can pretty much fight off captains or fight off, lieutenants and people underneath captains that we know have ridiculous amount of power and skill. And then all of a sudden Uryu comes in and he just pretty much solos one, right? Like, or not even solos one, but can keep up with their movement, doesn't get absolutely crippled by their spiritual pressure. These are the types of things that really go to show you how much they're growing every single character throughout the series, and I love that aspect because regardless of what happens in the story, people like Chad, people like Orihime, or what did I just call it? Yeah. It's so long since I said her name. Holy crap. Uh, these characters are truly the reason why Ichigo fights as hard as he does, and Rukia. All of them have been in a position where they just can't do as much for Ichigo as they would want to. And because Ichigo is the way he is, he doesn't really take it to heart, right? Like, he's not that torn up about his friends being in a position where they can't necessarily help him, because he's willing to take those leaps and bounds to get ridiculously powerful in any means, shape, or form, even if that does mean taking a sword to the heart from himself inside of his mind or inside of the sword, which, if you want to get into more details and talk about their swords, more about the spiritual pressure, more about what I just did with that big black cube that freaking Aizen just did, Hato, um, there's so much out there on YouTube for you to just look for. Sure, there's some people out there that like to flex their knowledge and stuff like that on Bleach, but regardless of how you look at it, you just gotta be careful of spoilers, for it's been out for quite some time, and I'm trying to not spoil you nearly as much as a lot of these videos will, because they have the right to just start talking about this series that they've been waiting for to come back, and explaining main moments that will always bring people back. For instance, there's one character in this game that I truly am dying to see, or at least not even dying to see in this game, but I want a Bleach standalone game, and I want to see some Kenpachi, man. Kenpachi and the character that I created here that you're looking at were two of my favorite characters, and they are completely polar opposites of each other when it comes to personality, when it comes to power, or not even just power, but the way they use their power, right? Um, that was really eye-opening to see characters who mainly are going to be in the background be so awesome to watch. Kenpachi being a man with an eye patch, that this eye patch siphons away his spiritual pressure, so it makes him weaker nonetheless. Ichigo runs up and tries to cut this man because he allows Ichigo to get a free shot, and the blade can't even pierce his chest because his spiritual power is much too higher than Ichigo. And that's where spiritual pressure becomes this huge uh, plot point of, if your spiritual pressure is low, you're going to get bodied, no matter what the case, no matter how it goes. But these swords that they have, these Zanpatos, um, once they get activated, or once they actually allow themselves to really just cut loose, you get to honestly see some of the most amazing animated and drawn things that this creator has done. Their transformations, their move sets, their overall um, ways that the abilities come out. For instance, this guy right here is just full-blown ice. He can make giant wings when he's young, in this younger form that you saw before, and in this form clearly is just in more control of that ice. But Aizen, being who he is, he makes it so if you see his sword activate, you pretty much can't do anything ever again against him because he controls what you see, what you feel, and all the 9 yards. And then you got someone like Ichigo and this is called Bankai or just a release as well. Um, for Ichigo, his release was more or less like just like an attack. And then his Bankai just made him faster, made him quicker, made him stronger. And while everybody else has like these grand awakenings that just look much more aesthetically pleasing to the eye than someone like Ichigo, who all he does is get a new outfit and a really thinner sword, it just goes to show you what was really out there, including knowing that the show is coming back and that there's so much more. Kenpachi never got to show his Bankai. More than like half the captains never showed their Bankai, right? It just kind of goes to show you how rare it is to see a Bankai from the highest level of fighters and Shimigamis, these protectors of the soul realm or protectors of all realms, and then you have the hollow realm where it's just where all the people who pass away and turn into hollows kind of go. There's so much I could talk about in the show, and that's why it's another reason why you should check it out. This Renji character right here doing the special is just somebody who makes it from literally being the first person that Ichigo actually fights sword to sword, no homo. Um, or pause, as Dashi would say. uh, but after fighting someone like Renji in his realm, in the human realm, where there wasn't as much spiritual pressure being capable. So if Renji would have used all of his spiritual pressure in the human realm, it would have affected humans, period. Like humans in the area could have died because he used too much pressure, spiritual pressure. And Ichigo at this point couldn't even injure them with just his spiritual pressure alone, seeing how he was a substitute Soul Reaper. So there's a lot that goes into every detail of the show, and that's why I laugh at people that say it's absolutely trash because of the filler, or it's absolutely trash because you couldn't finish the show and it was someone said it was too complicated, so they dropped it. Like, there's certain things that people say that won't make sense to a lot of people, but at the same time, if that's your reasoning behind not watching this show, then you definitely, or watching shows in general, then you definitely shouldn't watch this one, because there's a lot of different things that they like to not tell you because, it makes the show a little bit better, and then they just allow it to play out. So if you're not into those types of shows, this one might not be for you. Sure, things get relatively straightforward after a while, but I feel like there's a lot of different things that go into the background or into the characters' personalities, into their zanpatos, into their awakening forms, that once they happen, you just kind of have to accept it and see where things go. Overall, though, Bleach is by far one of my favorite shows that I found by myself, and I just really wanted to watch it way back when it was airing still, and wasn't even it was not even on, where did I start watching it at? It was as soon as Ichigo actually got bodied by Byakuya, and that was the aired episode I had watched, and I was like, okay, I'm pretty hooked. How is he ever going to beat someone at captain level? And slowly but surely, they show you all of these miraculous fights, all of these amazing looking animated moments, just to wind up giving me another reason to tell you why you should watch Bleach. And you should definitely get on it sooner than later, because with the return of Bleach coming soon, if it doesn't get postponed thanks to how the world is at the time of making this video, you will not be disappointed. And like I said at the beginning, there's a link down below so you can skip filler, know when it's coming, and avoid if you will. But like I said, there's some people that will start watching this show and they don't care about filler. They don't care about stuff that won't ultimately benefit the show. but the Zanpatos are so deep in lore and information that you get out of every single one that if they wanted to flush out every Zanpato, they did an arc where every captain and everybody's sword that has reached a certain level where you can communicate and get your strength and be stronger with it, all of them awakened by themselves and were pretty much free will. And people consider that a filler. I kind of don't, simply because it helped raise people's understandings with their weapons. And after it helped that, we had an idea of what their Zanpatos look like if they took their true forms out of just being the swords that we see on their hips. So, like I said, there's so much I can go into, but I just wanted to give you the bare bones so you would actually want to see what is out there. Because yeah, you could go watch all the highlights, go watch all the fights, but without seeing how they get to those points, the fights have way less purpose. And I think you can honestly tell that Bleach is one of the greatest shows and probably manga out there, since I haven't read it, but I've seen some of the artwork. I've seen how this final arc that we're about to watch, how Ichigo practically feels like the old Ichigo who had to figure out a way to be able to beat Byakuya to save Rukia from an execution, to now he has to figure out how to destroy one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful being or thing in general in the Bleach verse. And you just gotta figure it out, right? Like, if you see the form in this game, you understand that he's figured out something, but is it enough? Is that the form that actually wins at the end of the day? That's for you to watch the anime or get into the manga and read. I won't be saying, because I don't even know, which is awesome. And I'm looking so much forward to everything Bleach coming, because it's been such a long wait. And my anime people, you can bet I will be talking about this show and giving it all the attention I can on the channel. So with all that being said, everybody, I hope you have an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case may be. I am your boy, the Anime G, and if you want to talk about more Bleach, please hit me up in the comments. And if you want to know about the fillers, go check the description. But I'm going to get out of here. There was no anime for me to do today, so I thought this would be just a fun occasion to look up a show that I really suggest you guys watch. And there isn't a better one than this one because of its return and because of how much I was a fan of it already. And I was so close to just reading panel by panel the manga. But now that it's not happening, the manga reading, until, maybe the anime ends and it shows me that they didn't, that some people are like, oh, they skipped this and they did that and they did this. It'll give me a reason to read the manga after watching it, so that's always a plus in my book. With all that being said, everybody, let's do Aizen Special one more time because it's amazing, and I'll talk to you sooner than later. So with all that being said, take care and peace.